we've built an organization that has proven beyond reasonable doubt that the brain can be an active partner in its own recovery and that our technology can help with that. Neuroplasticity is not time limited, it's stimulus limited. Capital enables scale and scale enables independence.
Of stroke, epilepsy, paralysis, and depression, which indication do you believe will first shift standard of care? Welcome back to another episode of the GS MedTech podcast, where I speak with industry leaders shaping the future of MedTech. I'm Dame Medarski, and today on the show we're joined by Frank Desiere, CEO of CorTec, a company at the forefront of neurotechnology that is rapidly redefining what's possible in the recovery of neurological function. CorTec just recently announced a major clinical milestone, a successful second implantation of their system at Harborview Medical Center in Seattle, following remarkable outcomes from their first participant that have stunned clinicians and transformed a patient's everyday life. Frank brings deep leadership experience across life sciences, global medtech, and clinical translation. And he's here to walk us through the technology, the science, the implications for stroke rehabilitation, and beyond, and what this means for the future of neurological care. Frank, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Dame. Very pleased to be here.
Awesome. So as I've mentioned a couple of weeks back, we've shared very good news in terms of the completion of your second successful implantation at Harborview Medical Center. Clinically and strategically, what does this milestone change for CorTec?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a huge milestone for us, obviously, and it confirms that the first implantation was not an outlier. Reproducibility is the most critical validation at that stage for us and demonstrates the study protocol and the surgical is reliable across patients. It de-risks the study operationally and strategically. Obviously, it strengthens and validates our narrative. We are a clinical stage company and not a preclinical promise.
Amazing. And after two implantations, what have you already learned technically or operationally that reduces future risks?
Yeah, I mean, the surgical workflow at the Harborview Hospital is now refined. It's a 2-hour procedure, no adverse events across both cases. Our wireless system has shown stable chronic performance in patient 1 now for over 6 months, and the neural data acquisition quality is confirmed in the real world implanted conditions, which is critical. That builds up obviously our regulatory confidence that with each clean implantation we can support the IDE expansion in the discussions with the FDA.
And you've mentioned the first patient, his name was Matt Kidd. And when you saw Matt Kidd's progress, what did that moment confirm about your thesis on neuroplasticity?
Yes, the first patient's improvement is really at a magnitude the field would consider meaningful. In a time frame, the field considers closed. This is what makes this a landmark result. And it confirms to us that the recovery window for a stroke patient like Matt Kidd is not fixed. Matt was years post-stroke, well past conventional rehab windows, and the gains persisting also after stimulation of his brain is a critical signal that is really genuine to neural rewiring. So it's not a device-dependent performance, but an effect supported by our device.
Amazing. And I mean, stroke rehabilitation has long been considered time-limited in terms of the actual impact. But are we fundamentally underestimating the brain's capacity to recover even at a later stage?
Categorically, yes. The field has really operated under a 6-month ceiling rule of thumb for decades. Our data, alongside the broader research community, really is dismantling that assumption. Neuroplasticity is not time limited, it's stimulus limited. Provide the right intervention. So if we can provide the right intervention and the brain continues to adapt. Yeah. But I think we need to be careful not to overstate the science by saying the brain can always recover, right? The reality is that the plasticity window is real and it peaks at 60 to 90 days. But the assumption that it closes completely has been disproven. And what CorTec platform uniquely does is provide the targeted neural engagement needed to harness residual plasticity in the chronic phase where conventional therapy cannot reach.
And such has been the progress with Matt Kidd that if he applied to your trial today, he wouldn't qualify anymore. Does that single fact challenge decades of neurological assumptions?
It's in fact one of the most powerful clinical signals we have. Based on the inclusion criteria, Matt's function has recovered to the point where he would not qualify anymore today. His function has recovered beyond the threshold. That one data point is really a paradigm shift. A chronic stroke impairment is not a fixed state.
It was incredible to watch middle of last year, the videos that you've shared and the changes in terms of his movements and stability as well.
Yes, absolutely. This is a moving moment and example where our technology can really help a patient.
And throughout the research that I've done on preparing for the podcast, you've described a shift from pills to pulses. Are we entering the era of bioelectronic medicine in neurology?
Well, we're past that entry point, if you ask me, really.
Yeah.
We're really in it because electrical therapies are really expanding already across depression, epilepsy, Parkinson's, and now stroke. BCIs, brain-computer interfaces, are the highest precision expression of that shift. Not only stimulating, but having a real-time conversation with the brain, with neural circuits in the brain. And the question now is speed of clinical validation and regulatory pathway.
Yeah. And for listeners new to BCI, what makes brain interchange fundamentally different from traditional neuromodulation devices?
Yeah, most neuromodulation devices are either read-only sensing or write-only stimulation. Brain interchange does both simultaneously. It's also fully implantable and wireless, no cables, no external hardware tethering, and it's closed loop. The device listens to what the brain is doing and responds in real time. So we can really adapt therapy to neural state, and that makes it really unique.
And is that why a bidirectional closed loop capability such a breakthrough compared to read-only or write-only systems?
Yes, open loop stimulation compared to closed loop. Open loop is essentially blind. You deliver a fixed dose regardless of what the brain needs or is doing. So closed loop permits entirely new treatment modalities, right? Which were inaccessible really for open loop systems because it allows to react on a particular brain state, right? Or biomarker, we call it. And you can monitor the effects of each stimulation. That allows really to adapt the stimulation doses for the next stimulation pulse for really an optimal therapeutic effect.
And you chose an epidural approach. How did you evaluate the trade-off between invasiveness, safety, and signal fidelity?
So our approach is actually subdural, right? Subdural placement sits on the cortical surface of the brain, and it provides very high quality signal fidelity, which is critical, without penetrating brain tissue. And this significantly reduces the risk profile compared to intracortical approaches like some of the known BCI companies, while outperforming epidural or non-invasive options in signal quality. So it's a very adapted compromise.
Is this primarily a stroke solution or a multi-indication neuro platform starting with stroke?
Yeah, stroke is clearly our beachhead. We have deliberately chosen for unmet need. Obviously, it's a huge indication. Massive amounts of patients, unfortunately, suffer from stroke. The market size is huge. It's believed to be more than 48 billion in the coming 10 years. And our platform is architected for expansion from day one. While the implanted electronics are universal, the electrodes and algorithms are tailored to the specific application. We're already in other trials, registered trials for example, epilepsy with the Mayo Clinic, or paralysis with Utrecht University, and depression is the next frontier we are also actively positioning towards.
So in epilepsy, you're working on detecting high-frequency oscillations before seizures occur. If successful, how disruptive would seizure prevention be versus seizure response?
Yeah, I mean, the current available implant system, for example, the NeuroPace RNS responds to early onset of seizures, right? By then delivering an electrical pulse. The algorithm is very simple and there's limitations to that, right? The CorTec Brain Interchange benefits from advanced AI-powered algorithms running at the edge of the device, substantially improving seizure onset detection, robustness, allowing personalized seizure suppression. There is no need for a battery also, like in other approaches, because there is no battery. It's wirelessly powered and has no implanted battery. The system streams all the data, including brain response to the seizure, to the cloud, and there we have all the possibilities for sophisticated detection and algorithm improvement. If validated, it shifts the clinical question really from how do we manage seizures to how do we prevent them? And that is a category-defining step.
Amazing. And then following that on paralysis and ALS, I'm assuming BCIs are enabling communication. How do you see CorTec positioned within that rapidly evolving space?
Yeah, we're very well positioned through the Intense Consortium and Professor Nick Ramsey at the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands. We're developing next generation implantable BCI for severe paralysis. The team of Professor Ramsey achieved already a world's first fully implanted in-home use BCI. And we are providing now the cortical electrodes and electronics for the next generation. This is an existential unmet need. The patients are trapped. BCI is the most credible path to restoring communication for them.
So, of stroke, epilepsy, paralysis, and depression, which indication do you believe will first shift standard of care?
Yeah, epilepsy is the closest. Closed loop neuromodulation is already approved. NeuroPace. Stroke rehabilitation will clearly follow within this decade as also BCI-assisted therapy enters clinical pathways. Then you have depression. It's the largest market opportunity, but requires more clinical validation. And there's actually a chance that BCI for paralysis will come to market fastest because improving independence of those that are so severely impaired is really a priority.
And you already mentioned the PCA market is projected to grow dramatically this decade. Are we still early, or has the race already begun?
The race has clearly begun, but we are in the first mile of a marathon. We have to see that. Capital is there, is flowing, strategics are entering, regulatory frameworks are evolving. That are all signs of a sector maturing and not yet mature, for sure. The winners will be determined by clinical data, regulatory execution, and also platform versatility, and not by who raised the most at the earliest point.
As you rightly point out, strategics are entering space and capital is flowing, that's for sure. Is this increased competition more validation or pressure for you?
Yeah, both, and both are healthy and welcome in my mind. Medtronic's partnership, for example, with Precision Neurosciences that was announced recently is the clearest signal that strategics believe this market is real and large. For CorTec, competition validates the space and really accelerates clinical adoption timelines, which is important. It also sharpens our focus on differentiation, closed loop, fully implanted with data platform.
And one cannot speak about medtech anymore without speaking about AI as well. It's increasingly integrated into neural decoding as well. Where does machine learning become decisive in closed loop systems?
Yeah, at the point of real-time neural decoding at scale, the volume and complexity of those signals exceed really human interpretation. That's clear. So machine learning enables adaptive stimulation algorithms, that can, in the end, personalize therapy, and this will improve outcomes. So it's critical. And we have developed a data platform at CorTec. It's precisely built for that. We accumulate chronic brain data across patients and indications. And with that, our algorithms are improving, and that becomes a compounding data flywheel.
And you've given us hints by the fact where your first patients are. But how are you thinking about regulatory dynamics, FDA acceleration versus Europe's MDR realities?
Yeah, I mean, FDA breakthrough device designation has clearly accelerated development for several BCI companies, and we're navigating that pathway for our stroke program. While European MDR, for example, does not require substantially different efforts, the process of medical device approval in Europe is more risky overall. So we are a German company with the US first clinical strategy. We follow the data to the best regulatory pathway.
And maybe you can give us a little bit of an indication in terms of your regulatory timelines.
I mean, we are on the US timelines, obviously, with the US approval pathways. In Europe, we're planning similar feasibility studies starting in 2026. For actual commercialization, we need obviously other studies, and this is still a few years out to come to a commercial launch of our device, and the precise planning is still ongoing.
Thank you. And obviously, besides the brilliant idea and the product that you're developing, fundraising is always an important factor, as well as partnerships and obviously exit opportunities as well. At this stage, what matters most for you? Capital, planning of scaling, or maintaining the independence?
The honest answer, I think, is capital enables scale, and scale enables independence. Our priority is finding the right strategic alignment. Investors who understand the BCI therapeutic approval is a long horizon, so high conviction is required. But we have also received takeover indications, which really validates our asset value. But our primary mandate is really to preserve the innovation culture at CorTec and accelerate patient access. So those two objectives guide every conversation.
And you're unlike many medtech startups because CorTec also runs a fast-growing implantable components business as well. How important is that foundation in supporting the Brain Interchange program?
Firstly, it's de-risking our BCI operations because owning the supply chain of a medical device is critical. And we develop and manufacture the Brain Interchange entirely in-house. Secondly, it's the operational and financial de-risking of the company as well. We have around 5 million in revenues. We grow 20 to 30% CAGR over the past years. We are ISO 13485 certified. We have 400 square meters of clean room in-house. So that's really a considerable operation. So it provides cash flow stability, manufacturing credibility, and a revenue base that reduces also dilution pressure on the BCI program.
I mean, in my opinion, obviously, any CEO that's developing a product and a medtech business usually has one eye on fundraising and then another eye on building the product. But with you, it's slightly different because maybe you don't have that pressure for a runway, but at the same time, you're running almost a second business by having the implantable components part as well. So it's very interesting to see that, and very unusual, I would say, in this situation.
This makes really CorTec so unique, and it clearly this creates also strategic options. Yeah, the partnership with Heraeus Medevio that we've started last year, for example, demonstrate that this business has independent value beyond supporting also our own pipeline.
And if we fast forward 2 years, what would success look like for you clinically, commercially, and personally?
Yes, I think clinically we are focused on our stroke feasibility study, and we hope we can complete it with compelling peer-reviewed safety and efficacy data, and potentially a pivotal trial launched. In epilepsy, we hope to confirm the application. Depression, we hope to, have a first-in-human study initiated. Commercially, obviously, we want to close fundraising next steps, get our next generation of device design frozen, have our manufacturing scale up underway, and maybe other strategic partnerships secured. I think we have a lot on the plate, but we are moving fast in the right direction. Personally, for me, it will be important to clarify that we've built an organization that has proven beyond reasonable doubt that the brain can be an active partner in its own recovery, and that our technology can help with that, with patients who really need it most.
Amazing. There are some amazing milestones, and definitely you're developing a very, very crucial component to a lot of patients as well, and a device that will change and improve significant lives. So I'm definitely rooting for you, Frank. I appreciate you spending the time with me. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to obviously following the progress of the business going forward.
It was my pleasure, Dami. Thank you very much.